It's waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical, Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague in a dusty danger room in Rainford, it's Mr. Neil Dutton. Neil, how are we?
Okay, well, you couldn't have made me sound any more sinister with that introduction.
You're welcome.
A dusty danger room. Jesus wept. Actually, the title of my second album.
Yeah, and what an album it was, Lee. What an album it was.
It was well received.
Neil, we are back post-draft to give some thoughts, also to give some winners and losers, as I think every podcast does at this time of year, because why wouldn't you?
We are obliged to do so.
It would be silly not to. We're going to give you some who had the best week in terms of teams and players, and the players obviously in a fantasy context, and who had the worst week, teams again and players. Neil, should we give people a bit of a mock draft update? So obviously we did a mock draft on our last show, and for those who were keeping score at home, i.e. me, we got the first 4 picks correct. Not the first 4 teams, obviously, but the first 4 picks correct. Not quite Daniel Jeremiah, but not far off. Do you know, out of the 31 players we picked in the first round, how many were actually first rounders?
It was more than 20.
It was 27, which, let's be honest, is really good for, pissing in the wind. Although, to play devil's advocate, do you know how many players we correctly drafted to the correct team?
We were 5 of the first 9, and we were 5 of 31.
We were 5 of the first 9. Thank you to the Atlanta Falcons. And 5 of the 31. Although, 27 first rounders is cool, but once you start picking cornerbacks in random orders, and wide receivers in random orders, it becomes difficult. But fun exercise, and to get 27 of 31, just so you know, we're looking at you, Detroit. Is a pretty good way to go. So without further ado, Neil, let's get on with the show, and let's talk through winners and losers of the past week or so. So Neil, as you said, what we're going to do is give best week for teams, and worst week for teams, and best week for players, and worst week for players. So let's start with positive vibes, and give me one team that you thought had an excellent week last week.
Is it low-hanging fruit for me to say the Philadelphia Eagles?
No, it's not, but please explain.
The Philadelphia Eagles allowed, as one of us predicted that they would, were allowed to see the best player in the draft fall to them. Not a 10. They did move up to go to 9, but they took Jalen Carter. Now, it is a pick filled with risk because of maturity issues, effort issues, and whatnot. The Eagles feel strongly enough about the culture and the couple of other Georgia Bulldogs that they have on the premises to rein him in. That's your Fletcher Cox replacement right there. And also it means Fletcher Cox doesn't have to try and be the Fletcher Cox that he's not anymore. He can just be a good player. To get him and then get Nolan Smith at 30, when a lot of people, myself included, would have been happy with Smith at 10, was very good value. To get Kaylee Ringo where he went was very good value. A risky pick again, because there must be a reason why he's dropped, but if he lives up to the talent that saw some people had him going, early second, late first round, going out and trading a bag of footballs for DeAndre Swift. It's a good move to bulk up a position that the Eagles probably needed some help at. The Eagles, it could be, some people could say, oh, so you just draft from the best team in college. Yeah. They're the best players in college, so sounds logical.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate because I agree almost fundamentally with what you're saying. 2 things. One of the issues for Jalen Carter was he was in Georgia and being trouble. So what the Philadelphia Eagles have decided to do is surround him with players who they believe will support him, but surely enabled him to be a pain in the arse in Georgia. I can see both sides of that. It's very interesting that you bring up you bring up you get the best college players, because I'm really personally looking forward to you trading for Stetson Bennett and him starting as quarterback, because the way you are suggesting it, they should just sign every Georgia Bulldog and play them, as then they would win the Super Bowl. Is that accurate?
Well, I think, speaking of Stetson Bennett, it was nice for them to bring in a veteran to mentor Matthew Stafford.
I think you'll find they actually were at college together. They were in the same dorm.
No, Stetson is Matthew Stafford's dad. You've got confused.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I'm going to take low-hanging fruit, and it's not necessarily due to their draft, but it's due to the fact the last time we were on the show, the Baltimore Ravens didn't have a quarterback, and now the Baltimore Ravens have a quarterback, and they pick Zay Flowers, and they have Odell Beckham Jr., and they have Rashad Bateman, and did I mention that they have Lamar Jackson? And there's always been a narrative around Lamar Jackson. I'll give you a narrative that for every 4 games he plays, he wins 3 of them. That seems like a good record for me. It's something that most teams should aspire to. Has he got a lot of money? Yes. Should he be thanking the Eagles and Jalen Hurts for sorting contract out? Yes. But also Steve Bisciotti should be thanking the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, because not that anyone blinked, but that magical I'm going to get a fully guaranteed deal is still Excalibur, is still the lady in the lake, the sword in the stone, whatever mythical creature you want to say. No one's reached it yet. Are Baltimore better now post-draft? Absolutely, because they have a quarterback who they paid and is happy. Does that necessarily mean that I believe they will be good? Well, I think they'll be good, but it doesn't mean they'll be great, because let's be completely frank on this. They have wasted, and I mean this really sincerely, wasted the first 4 years of Lamar Jackson with putting around terrible talent, and now they have to pay him and also find talent.
The big test will be this year for Lamar Jackson, I think, is the little niggles that have kept you out the last 2 years. That's not going to fly now. I'm not suggesting players should play if they're injured. But now you've been paid. Your team, the fans, they will expect you to play through that now. If this team struggles, it's all on you now, Lamar. It could, it used to be, there's no one around them. That's lovely. We're paying you to elevate now. So it helps that, they've brought in, say, Odell Beckham. We don't know how much he's got left. Rashad Bateman needs to stay healthy, quite frankly. First 2 years have been injury wrecked. Now, again, that's not his fault, but the Baltimore Ravens are a famous adherent to, the best ability is the availability. They bring in Zay Flowers, and also Todd Monken likes to tailor his offense to the players he has, which is a unique viewpoint. It could work, it might not. Their defense still isn't great, so they're going to have to try and light up the scoreboard if they're going to keep up with the Bengals in their own division, the Bills, the Dolphins, and of course, the Chiefs. But are they in a better position to at least compete on an offensive point of view for the next few years? Yeah, of course they are. They had a good week.
Who's next, Neil?
Speaking of Baltimore, we'll go with a team that used to play there. The Colts. It looks like it could be a gamble. It is a huge gamble. But they're gonna say, no, forget the retirement home at quarterback. Let's go with where the league's going, and let's give him a quarterback, and let's give him a coach who has a history with this type of player. Now, I'm not saying it's as easy as plug and play. It doesn't work that way. And also, Shane Steichen is not going to be as hands-on with Richardson as he was with Jalen Hurts, because he's the head coach now. He has other things to worry about. But this team now we can see what they want to do, not just this year, but in the years to come, a quarterback. They also got Josh Downs, who's another playmaker on an offense that still lacks for it. So, just straight away, they had a good week because they know who their quarterback is, and also it looks like the team is now, it doesn't want to just spin the wheels, it wants to move forward. They made some other good pieces as well, but I'm not an evaluator of talent in that case. I know we did pick 27, so we must know, or we could just be picking names at random. I don't know. Make your own mind up. But the Colts have gone from a team that we've almost expected to do well the last couple of years, despite the quarterbacks, to a team that think, okay, I see the plan now.
Yeah, I also have the Indianapolis Colts, so I may as well talk about them here. Highest ceiling of the 4 quarterbacks, in my opinion. If you imagine, and I know, as you quite rightly point out, Shane Steichen is now the head coach, who won't be as heavily involved. If the floor is season 1 of Jalen Hurts, i.e., you're not convinced by the throwing ability per se, although he can obviously throw the ball, and your second read is a run, then this team's probably going to make a lot of yards. This dude is a freak of nature in terms of size, strength, and speed. If you look at the testing numbers, he was in a terrible offense in Florida, and experts who we trust and we listen to and we've spoken to say 54% completion is not necessarily his fault. Sometimes it can be, and this time it's not. Chris Ballard was going to get fired if he didn't do something like this. So this either works or it doesn't work. And I like it. And I wish more teams did it. And we'll come on to a team who I thought had a bad week, who didn't do something like this. And I think they should have done something like this. Because, in my opinion, that's how you win. What do you want to be? Now, maybe being a division winner is okay. But if you want to win the Super Bowl, then you need really an elite of an elite quarterback. And is Richardson that? I have no idea. But has he got more chance of being it than someone I've seen for 5 years and I know is rubbish? Yes, he does.
It comes down to Therese Paler. Have you got a quarterback who can pull a play out of his ass? And Richardson would appear to have that particular gene.
Neil, who is your third team that's had a good week?
I think you have to come away and be impressed, or at least intrigued, by what the Bears did. Now, granted, should they have taken Jalen Carter? Probably. But they're still thinking, young team, no, we're okay. We'll take the very little to move down one spot to take the right tackle we needed. Then they had, Rashawn Johnson. That's your starting running back. Tyler Scott, wide receiver, who may enter the rotation this year, but ultimately there's your replacement for Darnell Mooney. They have done what they had to do. If they believe in Justin Fields, they're giving him a chance. And to say they've got a few more assets to come, obviously because they got the booty from the Carolina Panthers. But again, it looks like this is a team, it's a front office, it's a coaching staff that know what they want to do, so they know to get the players to help them do it.
There's one thing getting a franchise quarterback, quote unquote, or thinking you've found one. But the only way you find out if he is one is giving him the necessary tools to be able to find out if he is one. I'm not necessarily saying you need like the elite of the elite talent, but you at least need some talent. And the Bears have attempted to address that. So in year 3 of Justin Fields, now we can say, what do we think? Is this going to work? Yes or no? Because this is a massive year. Because if it works, you're going to have to pay the man. But if it doesn't work, you're in a position to flip it and go somewhere else. And you need to give yourself the opportunity to be able to make that decision, because otherwise you're in complete and utter limbo of, is he ours or is he not? And I think the Bears have put themselves in at least some sort of position to make that question. There's only 2 things you should be in the NFL, Neil. This is my final team and they're good. You either want to be really good or you either want to be really bad. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the winners of the 2023 draft are the Arizona Cardinals. They read the memo. They looked at the depth chart and went, we suck. And you know what's not going to help? One player. We're going to need loads of them. And they traded with the Houston Texans and
rinsed them.
Yeah, I was going to say pull their pants down, but let's do rinsed. Fine. I assume we may get onto the Texans later. But you haven't got a quarterback this year. And there's open questions on whether this team ever wants this quarterback to play for them again. But regardless of what the case that is, you now are in a position where, based on Vegas betting odds right now, they would have the first 2 picks in the NFL draft next year. So you can pick Caleb Williams or Drake May or quarterback to be available and trade the other pick for another million picks to one of those teams. Washington, Vegas. There's hundreds of them, right? Who will kill for that pick. 2024, they have their first round pick, a first round pick from Houston, a second round pick. They have 3 thirds, 2 fours, 2 fifths, and a 7th. This is how you remake a roster. You thought you were good. You weren't. You lost your franchise quarterback who you have paid. You now are not sure he's your franchise quarterback because you're never fully convinced if he wants to play Fortnite or is engaged in your position. You can find out whether that's the case or not. And if you do want to support him and carry on, fair play. You've still got 2 super high draft picks to supplement him so you can get the best defensive player available and Marvin Harrison Jr., for example. Or you can get rid of Kyler Murray, which will get you draft picks. And you can say, how much money did the Eagles burn on Carson Wentz? 28? I think it was.
Something like that, yeah.
It'd be 45 with Kyler. It's basically the same in percentages of the cap. So it's not an undoable thing to do. Kyler Murray doesn't play for the Arizona Cardinals in 2024. They draft Caleb Williams, and they are going to draft a lot of to draft a lot of very good players.
The issue I have with the Cardinals is I think they're going to get found out for the fraud they've appointed as their head coach.
That's a fatal issue, but he doesn't pick players.
No.
And in theory, him being a fraud this year is absolutely chef's kiss.
It's Eagles fans are not enamoured of you. Don't talk about Philadelphia again. It's not going to help. Also, don't lie. Don't make up press conferences that didn't happen because, the Eagles are listening, but also there are journalists who go to these press conferences who go straight onto podcasts and say, that never happened. And also factually, do you think if you come out and say something about a statistic in the NFL that's wrong, Warren Sharp is not going to cotton on? The Eagles were never the number 1 defense. They were never leading in sacks by 30. And they never said they wanted you fired. They just wanted you to get another job. You're a liar.
Trying to think of fan bases who have a large degree of media members who won't pull me up on any BS that I talk, who are higher than the Philadelphia Eagles in any sport, in any country in the world. It'd probably be like Boca Juniors and flipping Bayern Munich. Yeah. Outside of that, you got no chance. So what an idiot.
But they tampered to get him. Who were you bidding against? Come on.
I don't know, but they thought they were bidding against someone. But anyway, if he's crap, it doesn't matter because that's a good thing for them.
Yeah.
Neil, let's stick with teams. Let's go worst week for teams. Who's your first one?
I think the Jets could have had a better week. I just think the draft is a bit projecty when you're on the clock here, in terms of this offense, this team, this quarterback. And I just think I think the Steelers gazumped them. I think the tackle would have been the pick. But then it was a bit, okay. This team hasn't had a pass rusher since John Abraham.
Which is ironic.
Because the Falcons haven't
the
either.
Atlanta Falcons, and it was the same guy.
Yeah. So, Will McDonald, he might be okay, but where they took him, I don't know. I just think the Israel Abanikanda pick. I liked Izzy. I just like saying, is he Abanikanda? He sure is. I just like that silly little gag. I don't think that was necessary behind Breece Hall when you've got all these other passing, all these other options in the passing game. It just felt a little bit pick and mixy, the whole draft.
I'm going to put mine into a little bit of context, because context matters. I said when we did the touchdown review pod at the end of the season, which two teams would make the Super Bowl, and I partially jokingly, said the Detroit Lions and the Cincinnati Bengals. I was disappointed in the Detroit Lions, if I'm honest, because they signed what I would define as, they had 2 first-round draft picks, and they have Jared Goff as their quarterback. And they signed a running back and an inside linebacker. Now, they probably needed a running back and an inside linebacker. I'm not necessarily denying that is the case. Far from it. Completely understand their picks you want. Are they the picks I want at 12 and 18?
In 2023.
In 2023, when my next pick is a tight end from Iowa, who may be good, but is he as good as the other ones? I like Brian Branch. I think that's a good pick. And they did eventually draft a quarterback in Hendon Hooker, who I believe also went to school with Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, he's going to mentor Jared Goff.
I believe this team believes it is better than I believe this team is. I believe this team is winning the North, but is the 3rd or 4th best team in the NFC. I believe they pick players like they missed making the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl by a field goal. Do you know who picks first round running backs? The Kansas City Chiefs with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, when they think it's another piece to add to a team that has just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I had the Lions down as one of the losers. It just seems that there are a couple of positions that at the end of the season you can very easily tell yourself a story that you look at the Lions and go, they could have done with that extra corner, couldn't they? Or I know they had Jameson Williams, but another wide receiver wouldn't have hurt. Or, just things like that. They invested in the running back in free agency. They still had DeAndre Swift at this point, but they wanted Jahmyr Gibbs. All right. They needed linebacker help. The second inside linebacker didn't go till pick 60 or 70. You've gone all in. Pretty much. You've already booked the hotel, but the lady didn't even say she'd go out with you yet. And I just think that they could have done better. Do I still expect them to win the NFC North? Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
But I just don't think these were the best picks for this team. I think that they've ignored positions that could have helped them a lot longer, like cornerback. Say tight end was a tight end, that's fine. They needed one, but they've already shown what they think about Iowa tight ends. They traded the last one they had away.
Neil, they started with 6 and 18, right?
Yes.
Talk to me like I'm 5 and explain to me how a team that has a ceiling of Jared Goff didn't trade those 2 picks to get into the top 3. If you want to win the Super Bowl,
yeah.
Please, people, let's be clear about this. I know Jared Goff made the Super Bowl, but if you're telling me it was because of him I can't help you.
Yeah, if anyone questions that, go watch that Super Bowl and just watch the Rams' offensive snaps. They have suckered themselves in, you could say, into believing they can win with Jared Goff. Not because of, not in spite of, but with. So this offense that a few weeks ago was potentially, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe another wide receiver, maybe a high-quality tight end, and a functional running game, has become a team that's going to have to pound the rock because they lost Jameson Williams for 6 weeks. He's already starting to feel a little bit busty because through injury and suspension, it's not a great start. So now their starting wide receivers are Marvin Jones again, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and a rookie tight end. Well, we've invested a top 12 pick in a running back. You're going to have to run the ball then.
Neil, when you have the greatest coach and greatest quarterback of all time, drafting cutely is cute because you're still going to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
When one of those leaves and you haven't made and you haven't won a playoff game since
the Super Bowl,
and you think it's clever to use 2 of your first 7 picks on a punter and a kicker, and you had one of the most unwatchable offenses of all time last season, and the first time you drafted an offensive skill player was 210. I'm out. The New England Patriots have been, for the past 20 years, the greatest franchise in the NFL. They are the 4th best team in their division and didn't do anything to address the areas of weakness in the draft. Now, do they have the best coach so we'll win a load of games? Yes. But actually, guess what? That's not fucking helpful. Because they are talent efficient and don't have an elite quarterback to help them anymore. And this is a major problem. They are the 4th best team in the AFC East.
They're the 4th best team. Potentially, they could have the best defense, but that's going to be irrelevant because they're going to have to keep every team to 14, and all of the other 3 teams in there can get to 14 because defense doesn't stop offense in the way it used to. I love that they literally sat in place and let Christian Gonzalez drop to them.
Yeah, of course.
That's fantastic. But this is a team that's operated on the theory that Bill O'Brien is the answer to absolutely everything. And that's an awful gamble to pay. Because it's Bill O'Brien. It's not the second coming of Bill Walsh. So, I cannot shake the feeling that the all-time wins record is now more important to Bill Belichick than winning Super Bowls. And I don't think Robert Kraft feels that way. So, we've written them off before and they've made us look stupid. We can be a little bit more confident now. This could be it for Belichick this year if they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, because in theory, I think most of the teams would just let it happen. But yeah, Robert Kraft isn't getting any younger either. And he seems to have an itchy trigger finger there. To be fair, he's never really pulled. So no. Yeah, because he's never lost. He's never. Yeah. When has this team been rubbish since Robert Kraft took over? Like year 1?
He fired Pete Carroll after an 8-8 season.
Yeah,
because they went 10-6, 9-7, 8-8, and he fired them. They were 5-11 in Belichick's first season. That was the last time they were bad. They started the 2001 season poorly, with people having question marks. That people thought Belichick's not getting out of this. He's moody with the media. His draft picks are questionable. He managed to somehow get through that and has been able to weather that storm since. But now it's like, Bill, the drafting badly for years, but papering over the cracks with Tom Brady. It's gone. It's done. You actually need to draft some players now.
Neil, final bad team for you.
The Denver Broncos draft was one of those that's like, okay, if you're just looking at this draft and you didn't know what the team was, and you looked at the moves and the way that these moves came about, you'd assume that was a team that has something of a pedigree of success and is just trying to get over the hump. This is a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in 8 years. This is a team that their brand new coach hates their quarterback. Let's be honest. Let's not kid ourselves. Sean Payton is already sick of Russell Wilson's shit without him even taking a snap. They made moves that, I say, I liked Marvin Mims. Seriously, you've got Sutton, Judy, Patrick. You know, you've now traded for Adam Troutman. You've got, Albert O. It was just one of those moves to be like, what is this? Sean, what's going on here? Where's the pick sequence? What's going on? And I'm not saying it was a terrible draft, because we don't know that. I'm just saying it was an odd one for a team with so few resources that they didn't make moves to just say, okay, we need to be fundamentally sound. Because their free agency was, they invested on the lines. I think this was a chance that they maybe could have said, okay, well, we just need to keep doing that. We need to, protect our quarterback. We need to get after the other quarterback. We need to stop them passing the ball. And instead it was a little bit like, it looked like a draft by a team that thought the rich was going to keep getting richer, but they weren't rich.
The Houston Texans picked 2 of the top 5 players in this year's draft. Almost fact. They gave up a massive haul to do so, and they're not going to be good this year. Will Anderson has a chance to be a really, really good player. But unless he is all-world, there's no way you give up that much draft capital to come back up for an edge rusher.
From Alabama.
I don't care if he's from the fucking moon. I don't care if he was on the Space Jam alien team. Like, no. Sorry. No chance. What are we doing here? Oh, well, it was actually, we went up for Stroud. No, we didn't. Like, you never. I watched the picks. Like, that was your pick and you picked Stroud. Who's in charge? Because at the moment it seems like 2 people are in charge and we wanted them both to be happy. Well, that's a recipe for disaster. I thought we were fixing this franchise, not making it worse. Are they better because they've got 2 good players? Yes. Like what? Undoubtedly. Does it help them long term to not have picks in 2024? Absolutely effing not. Not at all. So, no. Disaster. Get over it. Neil, stunned into silence by my rant on the Houston Texans.
I'm never really a fan of bringing in a coach with a general manager you've pretty much worn out his leash with, because he's going to take risks because he needs to save his job. So if you're going to do that, you've got to fire the GM as well. So it's as I say, we've got to compete. There's already rumours still circulating that Caserio is going in the next few days. So why did you let him do this? If it was D'Amico Ryans who wanted Will Anderson, all right, then that then means your next GM has to be hired by the coach. And that's never usually a good sign either. So the whole to give up when they're so bad. Yeah, they might be better next year. The division they're playing, shit. So, yeah, you might win 7 games. Well done. That takes you out of the top picks. But it doesn't really matter because you've traded that away. So, it was an odd one. But they're a very odd franchise. And I don't see them returning to normalcy anytime soon.
No, I don't either. Neil, I want to get your fancy thoughts. So, we won 3 fancy players who you love the land on the spot, and 3 fancy players who you don't. So let's start with the 3 that you love.
Well, the first one is pretty much obvious. It's Bijan Robinson going to an offense that is geared around running the ball, that has managed to produce exceptional rushing totals with a rushing philosophy. Don't forget, this team runs when they're ahead, it runs when they're level, it runs when they're losing. Tyler Algier did very well last year. Thanks, Tyler. We'll take it from here. Bijan Robinson has as much chance of finishing as RB1 as anyone not named Christian McCaffrey. I love this spot. He may not catch as many passes as McCaffrey or, Eckler or something like that. Doesn't matter. They will give him the ball till he pukes.
Devil's advocate position. Arthur Smith hates good players. Therefore, he signed him to be a blocking person for Tyler Algier.
Wouldn't put it past him.
Second person, Neil.
Anthony Richardson. This again is someone who, assuming he starts straight away, this is what we want from our quarterbacks. Are they going to light up the scoreboard with the passing? Probably not. But are they going to give us 30, 40, 50 rushing yards a game? Yeah. The Konami code is alive and well. And AR-15, which is the last time I'll use that, he's probably up there. He's probably if you're drafting Superflex, start 2 quarterbacks. You're drafting Bijan, then you're drafting Anthony Richardson. It's as simple as that. So he is going to be one of those that he may get taken a bit later in drafts, but look where people were taking Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields last year. So wheels up for AR-15.
Third team person, Neil.
Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's fallen into the perfect situation. He's not going to come in and dominate receptions because they still have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But this team did pass the ball an awful lot last year. And if they've invested a pick in JSN with the way that they have gone recently, then I think they're going to try and feature him. So I think he's got a good chance to put up high-end wide receiver 3 numbers while being the wide receiver 3 on his own team. I think this passing offense can propel and support all 3 wide receivers, considering they don't really have a dominant tight end of note, and their lead running back, who we'll come to, has no real pass-catching pedigree of his own.
In theory, Neil, this is just as good for DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett fans as others, because I think it gives them maybe less targets but more freedom on the field to make plays when targets are sent their way.
Yeah, and you have to respect Tyler Lockett's cap hit next year. I don't think it's something they're going to want to pay. So there's a good chance he either gets restructured or just cut and traded, and they move more to JSN. So it's hard not to like this situation, I don't think.
Let's go to the bad ones, Neil. Give me a player that you're not happy with where he landed.
Well, he's not a drafted player, and I love where he's gone. I just hate it for fantasy. DeAndre Swift. Because we've always wanted Swift to be the guy. Detroit didn't. You think he's going to be the guy in Philadelphia?
No.
Miles Sanders rushed for 1,200 yards, and he played barely half the snaps. Now, Swift is going to play a part, I think. He's going to have a role. He's going to have weeks. He's not going to have RB1 weeks. He's not going to get 20 touches a game. He's going to be very good. He's going to flash. He's going to put up highlights. Eagles fans will love seeing. Fantasy managers will not.
If he gets 1,200 yards, though, Neil, is he still draftable? If we say it's 6 touchdowns, maybe?
I think he needs more touchdowns than that. Because bear in mind, Sanders got 1,200 yards and all the touchdowns, but with the lack of receiving work, Sanders was not a high-end producer. You have to catch the ball. Swift does have that, but he's not going to have the same rushing floor as Sanders did.
Okay, Neil. Team number 2. Person number 2.
As I've mentioned, it's Izzy Abanikanda. There's a few teams that you don't mind going if you sat behind the running back. If the running back's a crook, you don't want to sit behind Breece Hall, who's very good and was good last year with no quarterback. He's now got a quarterback. He's now he's going to see lighter boxes. Abanikanda basically needs Breece Hall to get hurt, and I don't want to see that, and I don't think anyone does. So it's a shame, because Abanikanda would have been somewhere that if he'd gone to Philadelphia, maybe you start thinking, oh, do you know what? He can catch the ball a bit. He's very athletic. he could do the Miles Sanders role without being the bell cow. He could still be the workhorse. So I hate where he's gone.
Final one, Neil.
This is another one. It's not about a drafted player. It's about a player who's already there. But taking Zach Charbonnet was not good for Kenneth Walker. Because Kenneth Walker does not catch the ball. Now, he came into the NFL with no catching pedigree. He didn't throw to him in Michigan State, so it doesn't matter. It does. Because he wasn't that efficient a runner either. Listen to JJ Zacharyson, listen to Denny Carter, listen to all the people we know and respect, and they will tell you this. Kenneth Walker was a boom or bust runner. He's not a sustaining back. He's not going to grind out between the tackles. He's not going to get you 4, 5, 6, 7, 18. No. He's going to get you 0, 1, 72, 1, 1, 1. Don't think Pete Carroll likes that. Zach Charbonnet is going to come in. He's a much better receiver. So if they want to check it down and go to him, there's another option. But he's also good between the tackles. So this is going to be it could be a timeshare. It could be a committee. Or it could just be Seattle just saying, look, we don't give a stuff about draft capital. We're going to pick the better guy. This team drafted Rashad Penny in the first round, remember, and gave the ball to Chris Carson ad nauseum. So if that's the case, I think it's bad news for Kenneth Walker. Potentially good for Zach Charbonnet, whose name does sound like a French nail polish. But I don't think it's great for Walker.
Fantastic stuff, Neil. Fantastic stuff. We will do a lot more on drafts for 2024 in future weeks. That is really the close of 2023. You know how I know it's the close of 2023, Neil? Because on Saturday, in the Republic of Liverpool, we will be doing the 2024 Sleeper Dynasty Draft with our friends from across the country. Which means
can't wait.
We are in 2024 land. Fantastic stuff, as always. Enjoyed the show. Enjoyed the year. We'll be back pretty soon talking all 2024 stuff and probably some inane nonsense besides. Neil, any final thoughts before we go?
No, I have absolutely nothing. I've written absolutely nothing. That's not true. I have written about 5 biggest fallers in the Player Profile Dynasty rookie rankings. That should be out shortly. I shall tweet it out when it's published. Other than that, I've done very little.
Fantastic stuff, Neil. Well, that is it. These top guys are out, and all I can say is I hope you enjoy listening to this show and the rest of the time before we speak again as much as fans of Napoli will enjoy their night in Naples. These top guys are out.